Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity hosts Steve-O and Renee. Sit back each week while Steve-O and Renee educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve-O and Renee with today's expert in their field.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Ask the Expert Hospital.
Infirmary, not anymore.
Renee and I are just getting over getting rid of that crud sickness. So you might not even recognize my voice, and I don't even recognize my voice.
No, you still sound
Anyway, I am Steve-O. I'm here with my co-host Renee. If you've ever caught our show before, we bring in the top experts in their field. So you don't have to go Google somebody when you need somebody
or look
right
at the
away.
Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
If there is there a Yellow Pages anymore? I don't even think they have that anymore.
Aren't they doorstoppers now?
Hey, as a lawyer, you used to be a lot with Yellow Pages. Anyway, if you'd like to watch our show today, this is so much fun watching the show rather than just listening to it. You can go to www.criminallawleader, that's LAWLEADER.com. That's the best way to watch our show. We have, now he can't say this. The bar won't let him do this.
But we can.
But we can. We have the top criminal attorney who's been with us every month since inception of our show. I love doing this show. I mean, I totally love doing this show. It is one of those shows that you cannot fall asleep.
Because if you're getting in trouble or if you're going to have a DUI or something's going to happen over the holidays, I know who I would call. So I'm going to welcome Michael Leader of Leader & Leader. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you, guys. It's always an honor and privilege to be here.
Do we embarrass you a little bit, bro? I love Michael Leader. Leader. And we were just talking. God forbid.
I was just thinking I could get used to this.
Yeah.
I don't get it at home. I get from my legal assistant.
Mrs. Leader, did you hear that? And the little leaders. This is the holiday season. People party. And we were just talking to Michael. Folks, listen. Everybody, sometime in their life, get in trouble. It's just sometime in your life.
Or if you have a drink and you think that you're able to drive and you just never know and get pulled over. And this is the time of season that people go to parties and they're drinking and things happen.
You know, it's funny. I was having a conversation, guys, with a good friend of mine who's an excellent lawyer, phenomenal lawyer.
Not as good as you.
Not a criminal lawyer.
Okay.
He may be as good as me in what he does. Okay. But he's been practicing around 20 years, really smart guy. And we were having a conversation just about DUI in general and that type of stuff. Obviously, because of what I do, my background, reputation, experience, a lot of people get into these conversations with me. And what was amazing is, as bright as this guy is, sophisticated lawyer, top-notch, super intelligent, he was saying, well, you know, all the time I'll have 2 drinks, maybe 3 drinks with a meal. I'm hanging out for a couple hours, and, you know, I'll drive. I'm fine. I would blow. And I started asking him questions, and I've talked to you guys about this on the air.
Yes.
I said, you had 2 or 3 drinks or 2 or 3 glasses of drinks? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, did you see your drink get poured? And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, so how do you know if there's 3 ounces on rocks in that glass or 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces? Do you know? He goes, why? Why does it matter? It's because a drink, when you're late to liquor, is 1 ounce. So if you have 2.5 ounces in one glass and you have 3 glasses, how many drinks have you had?
Yeah, that's right.
That's 7.5 drinks you just had in an hour.
People don't think like that.
His jaw about hit the floor. He goes, oh my God. He goes, you're right. I'd probably blow over the legal and never thought about that. So that's the biggest problem people have is they feel okay and they don't realize what they've had to drink because they didn't pour it themselves, and they think about a drink as a cup, as a glass, as a beer bottle. You know, with a beer bottle, you're fine, unless it's one of those jumbo monsters, you know. But if
Long
it's
necks from Texas.
You know, but
don't people have different types of resistance to alcohol?
No, absolutely. There's tolerance, but the problem is when they're testing your blood alcohol content, it's going to be affected to some extent on your body size, but in general, tolerance is not a factor in the legal limit. You're an 08 is an 08, and theoretically, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the case, I'm just giving a very far out example, where if Steve drinks every day and is a heavy drinker for the last 25 years, and he were at an 08, he might not even feel it. He may be completely 100% unimpaired.
But it would
Whereas
still
where
register.
you drink maybe 2 drinks a month and you had, half of what he had, you could be under the legal limit but be plowed. So where you're completely impaired and shouldn't be driving. Unfortunately, there are arguments that could be made in a case in front of a trial, which you don't want to have to get there, about tolerance and these types of issues and defenses. But as far as being arrested about the legal limit, tolerance it really is not going to affect what your reading is. So it's not going
basically,
to
the
matter.
breathalyzer would register for the same, regardless of who it was.
It's
or your
going to
tolerance.
register based on the content of alcohol in your
That's
blood.
it.
Doesn't measure or take into account your tolerance
But
at
now,
all.
I want to talk, because we just started talking about this before the show. Do a lot of people wait till they hire an attorney after they've been arrested?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, especially with DUI, because people associate DUI as a ticket or traffic.
And it's not. It's really a serious offense.
In fact, it's one of you could get caught joyriding in a stolen Mercedes and get off with a much easier punishment for a serious felony like that than you can for a misdemeanor DUI in the state of Florida. So it's absolutely very serious. There are certain requirements that we've talked about when you guys have had me in before about administrative penalties and that you have 10 days from your arrest to address those. And I can't tell you how often I have clients in DUIs and other types of cases that wait until their court date or after their first court date to hire a lawyer. And at that point, there's certain evidence I can't preserve, certain things I can no longer do because the time for doing it has passed, and they've prejudiced themselves in a tremendous way in some of those situations.
So it can hurt their case.
Absolutely. My advice to anybody is you need to consult with a lawyer if you've been arrested immediately, because you need to know your rights. You need to know what you're facing. You need to know what needs to be done and when. The problem is there are lawyers that advertise, there are lawyers that people find online, and a small percentage of them, in my opinion, are very good and very knowledgeable. And you got to also know who you're talking to and who you're getting, because
Right, you just don't want to hire anybody.
Listen, I got to be candid. I think that some of the large percentage of crooks out there that go uncharged and unpunished are unfortunately a lot of bad lawyers. Because there are a lot of bad lawyers that tell people a whole dog and pony show. They give them a whole song and dance. They take money from them and they do nothing for them. Or I've had so many people that have called me, well, I spoke to this lawyer and he told me this or he told me that. And they got completely idiotic advice that's not accurate whatsoever. But what are these people that are calling? And a lawyer's a lawyer. They don't know the difference. I'm here to tell you there's a big difference from lawyer to lawyer, and you need to do the best you can under a difficult situation if you don't have personal references and personal referrals. And here's the rub. Let's say you have a buddy that had a charge and the lawyer got him off, and that person says, hey, my lawyer's the best. He got me off. Now, his lawyer may have gotten completely lucky, could be a great lawyer, could be a complete idiot and happen to get lucky. So now that client's telling everybody, I have the greatest lawyer. And that lawyer may never recreate that again because he just,
lucked out, basically.
The state lost paperwork, the cop got fired, who knows? And he got it arrested and then made it sound like, listen, I had somebody that came to me, I'll tell you a great example. I had somebody that came to me, a civil lawyer that knows my work, had a 20-year client, wife was in a car wreck, they were concerned, they didn't know, the other driver may have died, all these facts. I'm not going to say what county or where it happened, but immediately it sounded very serious. It sounded like she was going to be looking at a DUI manslaughter charge.
Oh my goodness.
Which no criminal history would cause her up to 15 years in prison with a 4-year minimum mandatory, lifetime revocation of her license, and she's not a citizen, so she'd probably be removed from the U.S.
Deported.
Yep.
Right.
So here's the deal. One lawyer they talked to, who happened to be a very knowledgeable lawyer that I respect in my arena, which is very few people in the state. This is one guy that I do respect. But from what they told me, this guy tried to give them this whole song and dance. What I suspect he was going to do was take a substantial amount of money from them and then make it look like he made the case go away, when the reality is I did a lot of legwork. I didn't charge them a penny because I do free consultations. In preparation for the consultation, I got the report. And guess what? The officers in the case completely screwed up the case. They never drew her blood. The blood was never apparently drawn at the hospital. And I don't know for sure, and I've warned the client that we need to follow up and check on these things. And thankfully, the adverse driver didn't die. So
wow.
She went from looking where we thought she was going to be looking at a DUI manslaughter to where she's not even going to be charged with a crime at all, most likely. And I've told them, look, if this surfaces or that surfaces, things could change. But there's another lawyer that's good in my area, but was still it sounds like, and I don't know, and I somebody I like and respect, but it certainly sounded a little shady about what he was telling them and what I had in front of me. So you never know, and that's the problem. And even if a friend recommends somebody, you still don't know.
Well, that's the purpose of our
And-
show.
right.
So, listen, you never know when something's going to happen. You don't. I mean, no one expects to get arrested, but sometimes when it happens, you hear about people Googling. How do you? I mean, you got a show like this that brings the top criminal attorney. And I want to say something. Just because we feel like Michael's the top criminal attorney doesn't mean he's the most expensive. I don't want to scare anybody away.
By no means.
So, but I want.
And I'm not the least
I
expensive
didn't say
either,
that.
though, in
No,
all
that's
fairness.
fine. But and listen, you deserve whatever you get. But when you talk to me about people that are waiting till January that maybe got arrested for DUI in December, could that be the difference in going to jail and not going to jail, waiting that long?
Yeah, it theoretically could be, and I don't know that that's likely to be that extreme a difference, but I'll give you a very brief example. I've had clients where we got evidence that after 30 days would have been destroyed, we never would have been able to get. Based on that evidence, I have proven that the officers were not telling the truth, were being dishonest, forcing the state's hand to do certain things in the case. In some circumstances, the state agreeing to throw the entire case out because they were troubled by the fact that unequivocally they cannot get away from the fact that their officer has now lied under oath.
Wow.
And I've had cases, if they hired me after that 30 days and I couldn't have gotten that information, I never would have had that proof. I may or may not have won the legal motions, and I hadn't won the legal motions. My clients could have been facing jail time or other penalties in those cases. So yes, I'm not saying it's likely. That information that I get quickly probably makes a serious impact.
You shouldn't wait.
In
That's
10
Well,
to 20% of my
saying.
cases. But right, who do you want to take that gamble?
No, absolutely
wouldn't.
not. And you were saying
Right.
that people usually they'll wait because it's Christmas time and people want to buy presents.
They don't have money. Sure.
Yes, I mean obviously you forego the Christmas presents
Yeah.
and hire a good attorney.
Here's the other problem. A lot of people think, oh, I'll go to court and I'll get a public defender. Not knocking the public defenders. God bless them, the service they do. It's a hard job. It's not very they're not given a lot of gratitude often from their clients. In fact, sometimes they get no gratitude. They're referred to as not being lawyers when they're a bar licensed lawyer like anybody else, and they handle a caseload that is immense. So my hat's off to them. We need them. God bless them, and I in no way diminishing them. The problem is this. Public defenders that are handling DUIs in most counties don't have tremendous experience. They've normally been lawyers for a day to a year, because once they've been around longer, most counties,
They go
they're
off on
gone
their
up
own,
to,
right.
or they go to felony or
Right,
higher
right.
units. Number two, they don't handle the administrative case that a lot of people then realize that they have to deal with within 10 days of their arrest. So you don't have a lawyer for that with the PD. Number three.
You have to explain to people what that is.
Yeah,
also.
well, after you're arrested for a DUI, depending on whether you blow or refuse, you're facing anywhere from a 6-month to an 18-month driver license suspension, administrative having nothing to do with the criminal case, just because you blew over in 08 or you refused. You have 10 days from your date of your arrest to take action with respect to that, and there's a number of different options of what you can do. If you don't do it within the 10 days, you blow it. You're done. You get that suspension.
That's our music. We're going to go to break. Give me your phone number before we go to break.
I can be reached anytime, 24/7 at 954-523-2020 and at www.criminallawleader, one word, www.criminallawleader.com.
And also, if you
We'll
have
be
a
right
question for
back.
Michael Leader, you can call us at 888-565-1470 when we come back from break. We'll be right back.
When you need an aggressive, experienced, and knowledgeable criminal or DUI defense attorney, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA. With nearly 80 years of combined experience, Michael D. Leader is a former prosecutor with considerable experience, not just in all areas of criminal law, but also DUI defense. Michael Leader has dedicated his entire practice to the art of defeating DUI and criminal cases for a period of time. The criminal and DUI defense law firm of Leader & Leader, PA has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case in order to tailor the approach and defense to each individual client and their needs. They are always available to their clients. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense, including DUI, federal drug charges, white-collar crime or fraud cases, theft offenses, violations of probation or early termination, and all other criminal matters from investigation to trial. Let the criminal and DUI law firm of Leader & Leader, PA explore all of your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of jail or prison time. Free in-office or telephone consultations for all criminal matters. Do not hesitate. Call the Criminal Law Leader today, 954-523-2020.
And we're back. We're here with, we think, is a top criminal attorney. And this is something, Renee and I have worked with lawyers throughout probably over the last 10 years. And you hear about certain attorneys, and Leader was always one of those firms that always came up. And I went, God, if we could get Leader to do this, that's a high five.
Yes.
So now this is the holiday season coming up. People drink.
Absolutely, and it's not just a DUI problem. It's another hot topic in our community today. It frequently lends and contributes to domestic violence problems. And whether it's domestic violence or it's DUI, I can't urge enough. The second you have a problem, go talk to a lawyer. But the issue with domestic violence is so widespread, right? So it's becoming big in the news, sports athletes, all this kind of stuff. But it's a huge issue, and I want to be clear and I want to state for the record that I'm not minimizing to anybody out there listening domestic violence. I don't condone it. I don't approve of it. I've never participated in it. But it is also one of the most abused parts of our criminal justice system. So again,
in what respect?
There are incredible victims that it's a horrible situation. I'm not taking anything away from those people. However, domestic violence is so abused with lies and deceit because it is a very easy allegation to bring. The second police officers get called out for a DV, I would say 95, DV being the business term for domestic violence, so a lot of time we would just refer to it as a DV case. Officers are called out to a domestic violence call. I would say 95% of the time or greater, somebody's going to jail because of their liability concerns. They leave somebody because they think they've cooled down. It escalates. Somebody ends up dead, and they're all in the paper. Officer was there and left them. Could have avoided these people being killed.
I thought they take you the first time they come out.
Generally, they do. That's what I'm saying. It's very rare. If there's a domestic violence call, somebody's going to jail. I've seen the person that made the call go to jail, and I've seen the other person go to jail. So sometimes you even make the call, and then the other side saying, I didn't want them to go take him to jail. I didn't think they were going to take him to jail. Guess what? You call and make a DV call, somebody's probably going to jail. So if you're making the call, make sure you need to make it, but don't be afraid to make it if you don't feel safe. If you think you're in jeopardy, you think you're in trouble, you got to make that call. But with that being said, why is it abused? People use it in child custody cases. People make up allegations because they're in a fight or angry with their significant other. There are a million reasons that I've seen.
And how do you prove differently sometimes?
It's he said, she said very often. I've seen men and women that have inflicted their own marks or injuries just to try to get the other person in trouble because they're angry. I can't tell you how many times they come into my office later and say, oh my God, what did I do? And they're afraid to say I lied because now they're afraid to get in trouble, but they admit to me in my office that, well, he didn't really do that, and I was pushing him and he was acting in self-defense, but that's not what they told the police.
Right.
So now if they change their story, they're not credible, and what they think is, well, I can tell the state I don't want to press charges. Guess what? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
The state decides. Now the arrest happened, it's out of your hands. And most people think they can just say, I don't want to press charges, and it's that simple. Especially in Broward County, Dade and Palm Beach are also pretty tough on domestic violence. The biggest problem is as soon as you get arrested for domestic violence, the judge is going to enter an order keeping you from having contact with that person. So you can't go home. You can't get your stuff.
So they immediately put a restraining order out?
It's different than a restraining order. It's called a no contact order as condition of your release. A lot of times, though, they go get the arrest, and then the significant other goes and gets a civil restraining order, which is a very bad thing to have against you. Cops see it every time they pull up your name or run you. You don't want to have a domestic violence injunction against you. That is horribly abused in family law cases for paternity, child support, divorces. And I'm not saying that in all those cases it's not true, but in many cases I've seen, and with family law attorneys I know, it is so often abused where they make up allegations to get an upper hand. With that being said, it is a problem. It is serious. A domestic violence injunction, civil or is serious. if somebody that's out to get you and a jaded ex-girlfriend gets a domestic violence injunction, she can just call and make up and say, oh, he came by my house and left, and the cops can come and arrest you for a violation of injunction. Wow. It's your word against hers. I've seen people caught in this system with somebody manipulating it over and over. The worst manipulation I've seen in the criminal justice and civil justice system has been with respect to these types of matters. It is terrible. And the worst part is the reason that these people outrage me is not only did they abuse the system, lie, waste police time, waste lawyer time, waste judges' time, resources, but they've diminished the allegations of the people that are true victims.
Right.
Because now
it's a very serious issue.
Lawyers like me sit there saying, I've seen so much nonsense and so many lies and so many abuse. I wonder if this one's real or not. It causes you to question the real ones because there's so many frauds out there. So it's a terrible thing. It is, I mean, I can't imagine being subjected to that. It's a horrible way for anybody to live, and it can escalate and be very dangerous.
What kind of punishment is someone looking at first time?
It varies, but it's normally a lot. In other words, domestic violence, the underlying charge is basically a battery. Okay. But a domestic violence battery is handled differently than if you got into a fight with a guy in a bar and it would just be a misdemeanor battery without any serious injuries. You shove a guy, he shoves you back, they arrest you for battery. It's very different because first of all,
it goes into the no contact restraining orders if it's a family member.
Exactly, it goes to a special court in most jurisdictions. There, you can't return home until that's addressed or lifted, which often it's not for the entire time of the case. The bonds can sometimes be higher. There are certain situations where if any minor violation of your bond or your lease may not cause your bond to be revoked and make you sit in jail. On a misdemeanor battery, on a domestic violence, it may be more likely. But more importantly, they normally require much longer terms of probation. They'll require a batterer's intervention program in most instances, which is a 26-week program frequently, sometimes 13. There are tons of issues. Plus, you cannot get those cases sealed. So if you got a withhold, no conviction on a misdemeanor battery, you could have that sealed. Domestic batteries, you have problems with getting those records sealed.
So if you're not convicted, it would still show up on your record.
Right. If you got a withhold, which isn't a conviction, but you entered a resolution to just put the case behind you, you wouldn't be able to get that off your record.
Do you help people to get a restraining order? Do you go to an attorney for that? Or do you go directly to the courts?
If you need a restraining order because of stalking or repeat violence or a domestic relationship that's violent, it's very easy. In fact, sometimes for the people that abuse it, too easy, unfortunately. You can go to the clerk of court in pretty much any courthouse. If you're indigent, you don't have the money to afford it, there's a process to do it free of charge. And they have forms and you fill them out and they walk you through the process. You really don't need a lawyer to get a civil injunction. Criminal charges, you don't need a lawyer either, but you need a police report and need to be initiated that way.
Because Renee keeps stalking me. Every time I come to the station, there she is right there.
You should only be so lucky.
I want this show to be a deterrent, too. I mean, we got the holidays coming up. People tend to argue. And it's not just husband and wife.
Liquor and
people are drinking
right.
and partying, and I see it a lot. There's a high propensity. Flip side, people that are depressed or upset because they can't buy their kids or family the presents they want. They're having money struggles. They can't provide the Christmas or holiday season, whatever their orientation
time
is.
Of year.
So yeah, it happens. And my best advice to people is no matter what these are very emotionally charged cases. If things are getting escalated, you're getting angry, you need to try your best. Please, if you're listening, take a deep breath, walk away from the situation. What I frequently see happen is one side is smart enough to try to decompress and get away. The other side is so agitated they chase after them. They can't let it go. They want that fight, that argument. They want to say their piece, and then it escalates that way. But folks, if you're out there, please, it's just not worth the aggravation for you and your loved ones. Don't get in the car and drive off if you've been drinking.
Yeah, right.
Go in another room, go outside, try to avoid it because these things escalate and they escalate quick. And sometimes you don't call the police, a neighbor hears it and they call the police.
Right.
Somebody's going to jail. It's going to become very expensive. Add to your troubles. Just something you don't need in your life. And certainly, men, women, keep your hands off one another, unless it's in a loving and tender way.
You know what? So many times over the years, I've heard someone who got in trouble said, "I had the worst attorney," and I said, "How did you get him?" "Oh, some friend of mine from a friend." Listen,
or they use scare tactics. tactics.
Well, but-
so it costs you more money.
Yeah, but you got a show like this. We
Right.
have an incredible criminal law attorney. And you know what? You can tell his passion, how strong Michael's passion is. And it's not all about the almighty dollar. He's sitting here, his time, which is, you get more than $100 an hour these days, Michael. But I mean,
Thankfully.
he's using his time here. So
To
I want
educate
you
you.
to write this phone number down because you never know, or it might be a relative or it might be a friend. I want you to write Michael Leader's phone number down. Give him
Give
your
everybody
number.
your phone number.
I can be reached anytime, folks. Holidays, weekends, nights, anytime. 954-523-2020. And if you're not driving, I'd recommend you take down the name Michael Leader, Leader. Put it in your phone now because you never know when you're going to need it.
That's exactly, and give them your website again too.
We can be reached at www.criminallawleader, as one word.com, www.criminallawleader.com. And I want to apologize. I'm switching companies that manage my website. So the date of my appearance of the show currently on my site is actually inaccurate. It has my last appearance on there. Hopefully today's show is streaming live properly
yes,
on there. I'm
we
not
hope so.
sure. But to anybody that goes to my site, if any of that content's not current today, we should have that fixed. We're in a transition this week by next week, and I apologize.
And how long have you been? an
Starting,
attorney?
including the time starting as an intern in the state attorney's office, I've been doing this work for 16 years. I've been involved with thousands of cases. I've been involved in over 100 jury trials. I've personally first chaired somewhere in the 70s. A large percentage of those cases have been DUIs, and I have not lost a DUI refusal case, knocking on wood, since 2002.
Yes.
And this is all you do, though. I mean, you don't have a.
Well, this is his specialty,
yeah.
right? I shouldn't say specialty.
I
but
can't
this is-
use that word.
I can't. So this is your specialty.
I focus a large
Yeah,
part of my
focus.
practice on DUI, and there's a difference. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and I'm a DUI defense lawyer. I'm not a criminal lawyer that handles DUI cases because there is a difference.
Okay.
And there are a few other things that I do because of an eclectic background and life's experience I've had, but almost all of my work is criminal defense related. I do all state and federal charges. In fact, I'm speaking to a gentleman now that wants to hire me in Citrus County, which is about 2 hours north of Tampa. It's out there, but he was referred to me by somebody that knows my work. He knows that it's going to cost a lot more to bring me there and to use somebody local. But he also believes, from what he told me, that he's not going to find anybody locally that has my skill, background, experience in this arena. And I think he believes that I'm going to give him the best chance of winning.
so that speaks volume.
Exactly. And we have a huge audience in Stewart and in Jupiter. You could practice there, couldn't you?
Not only I do. I handle cases in St. Lucie County, Martin County, Indian River, all over the state, especially for DUI. And people will contact me for certain cases out of the area that's too far out of the area. And I'll refer them to somebody local because I say, look, for this particular case, you don't necessarily need me, and it's going to cost you too much. But for DUIs and other certain offenses, I think that I can be a game changer sometimes. I believe that.
Give everybody your phone number
Once
again.
Again, Michael Leader, 954-523-2020 and www.criminallawleader.com. Can't thank you guys enough for having
You're the
me.
best, man.
Happy
Love-
Thanksgiving to
Same
everybody.
to you.
But don't drink and drive, guys. It's not worth it. There are plenty of services out there. It's and as expensive as they are or can be, it's a lot cheaper than dealing with a DUI. And I just wish everybody a happy, healthy holiday season and Thanksgiving.
Leader
Perfect.
and Leader, criminal defense law. Thanks so much, Michael.
Thanks, Michael, for
Man,
coming
we
in
love
today.
when you come on.
Thank you, guys.
That's because time goes by so fast
It
during the show.
does.
We'll be right back. We've got another great show the next 30 minutes. Speaking
Unity
of DUI,
Recovery, yes.
Unity Recovery, one of the top addiction recovery centers in all of Florida. We'll be right back.
When you need an aggressive, experienced, and knowledgeable criminal or DUI defense attorney, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA. With nearly 80 years of combined experience, Michael D. Leader is a former prosecutor with considerable experience, not just in all areas of criminal law, but also DUI defense. Michael Leader has